Madam Secretary, you just said that technological progress or democracy, in other words, could be turned against itself if used negatively. Madam Secretary, we see that sometimes Western media portray this region of the world negatively more often than not, and hence creating a thin line between, let's say, the freedom of the press and stereotyping, basically. This, in turn, propagates a negative stereotype within the American society. What can you do as your role in the U.S. government to fix this?
I think that's a really important question, Mohammed. And one of the reasons I'm here is because I am concerned about that. I'm concerned about stereotyping. I'm concerned about it in respect to your region, but I'm also concerned about how the United States is stereotyped. And I think that the media, if you think about media, and certainly the press, often takes things and blows them up, makes them bigger than they might be. I've often said about my country, based on the television shows that traveled around the world the last 20 years, that you probably think that every man is a wrestler and every woman walks around in a bikini. I mean, it's a terrible stereotype. And people worry, well, what goes on in America? And if you don't get out and see our people and meet our people and go across our country, which I learned today many of your leaders, including His Majesty, have done and the Crown Prince have done, you would be dealing with stereotypes. So similarly, images of the Gulf or the Middle East or the Arab world can also lend themselves to stereotypes. So what's to be done about that? Well, I think it's important for us to have a much broader array of media images and discussions and programs so that you get a much more comprehensive view of each other. I am a strong supporter of more exchange programs, and I was delighted to see so many hands go up of people who've been to New York. And I hope you go to other places in the United States, and I hope more Americans, and of course, Americans have come to Bahrain for many years. You have hosted the Fifth Fleet, so we've had thousands of sailors and their families, and that's one of the reasons why Bahrain is viewed so favorably in the United States, because people have personal experience. But that's not true with other parts of the region or the world. It is important that we all work harder to keep a more open mind. And one of the great challenges in the 21st century is, despite our differences, which actually make life more interesting, when you think about it, how boring would it be if there was only one kind of person who looked exactly the same as everyone else, and all of the culture and the religion and everything was the same. So we've been blessed. We've been blessed with this richness of human diversity. But we also, at the same time as we recognize and even celebrate that, have to keep searching for our common humanity. We have to be able to relate to and empathize with others. And that takes good upbringing. That takes parents and family members who teach you to be proud of yourself and proud of who you are and proud of where you came from, but also sympathetic to and understanding of the other. And I worry that in a fast-paced world like the ones that most of the young people exist in today, that's harder and harder. You know, you think about all of the social networking that goes on, and it's wonderful because you can stay in touch with so many people, but if you're only staying in touch with people who already believe what you believe, see the world that you see, understand as you understand, then we can actually become more isolated instead of more open. So it's a difficult moment in history because the opportunities are just limitless for greater understanding and cooperation. But there's also a sense that people, in the face of all this fast-paced change and this flood of information, may feel more comfortable just shrinking their world and not venturing beyond it except in superficial ways. So I'm hoping that you know, one of the things we can do is more exchanges, more openness, more real connections so that people can appreciate each other better.
I'd like to go back to a point that you made, Madam Secretary,